They say our town throws the best Halloween parade in the state. Costumes, floats, candy. People drive for miles to see it. But what they don't talk about is how every year, when the parade ends, someone disappears. I grew up in the town of Ashford Hollow, small, quiet, old-fashioned. A place where everyone knows everyone, where gossip spreads faster than the wind through autumn leaves. Every October, the whole town comes alive. Pumpkins on every porch, orange lights in every window, the scent of caramel apples and smoke drifting from the fairgrounds. It's the kind of place you'd call idyllic, if you didn't know its history. The parade tradition started decades ago, a way to celebrate the end of harvest season. But over time, people started noticing a pattern. A missing child in 72, a teenager in 85, a police officer in 96. Always after the parade, always on Halloween night. The disappearances were never solved. No bodies found, no suspects, just gone. Still, people kept showing up, because that's what small towns do. We bury our horrors under layers of tradition and pretend it's normal. This year, I wasn't planning to go, but my younger sister, Abby, begged me. She's 16, all eyeliner, sarcasm, and oversized hoodies. She said I was being paranoid and boring. So like an idiot, I said yes. It was cold that night, colder than any Halloween I can remember. The air felt thin, sharp enough to sting your throat. Main Street was packed. Floats lined up, lights flashing, costumed kids running between them. The brass band was tuning up, out of sync and slightly off-key. I remember laughing, drinking hot cider from a paper cup, trying to pretend the stories weren't in the back of my mind. But something was off. It started small. The streetlights flickered, just once. Then again, a little too long. A man in a pumpkin mask stood at the end of the street, completely still, watching the crowd. I thought maybe he was part of the parade, until he turned and slowly vanished into an alley. Then, a few minutes later, the air changed. You could feel it, like static before lightning. The band started playing, a low, dragging march that didn't sound like any song I knew. People clapped. Floats rolled forward. Everyone cheered. And just for a second, I forgot to be afraid, until I looked at Abby. She was standing beside me, her face pale, her eyes wide. She pointed toward the floats and whispered, "Do you see that?" I followed her gaze, and my stomach dropped. There, sitting on one of the floats, was a person wearing Abby's exact costume. Same jacket, same hair, even the same face, and she was waving at us. I froze. The float rolled past, covered in fake cobwebs and fog machines. The double on it, the girl who looked like my sister, kept smiling, waving. Then she mouthed something. "Help me." The fog swallowed her before I could react. I grabbed Abby's arm. "Did you see that? What the hell was that?" She just shook her head. I don't know. The music grew louder. The crowd screamed and clapped, completely oblivious. I pushed through the people, trying to follow the float as it turned down the next street. But when I got there, the street was empty. No floats, no people, just echoing music and confetti tumbling in the wind. It was like the parade had split. Half the crowd vanished with it. I called for Abby, but she didn't answer. I ran, shoving open a side gate into the fairgrounds behind the church. The lights were dim there, half the bulbs burned out. The only sound was a faint scraping, like fabric dragging across pavement. I followed it, past the food stalls, past the carousel that spun slowly, though no one was on it. And then I saw them. The parade floats, lined up in the dark, empty, silent, except for one. A figure sat at the edge of it, back turned to me, shoulders shaking, crying softly. "Abby!" The crying stopped. The head turned, and it was her, but her skin looked wrong. Pale, waxy, like a mask too tight for her face. And her eyes, completely black. I stepped back, my foot crunching glass. She smiled slowly and said, "It's your turn." I ran. The sound of footsteps followed me. Fast, heavy, uneven. Every light I passed flickered, sputtered, and died. I reached Main Street again, but the parade was still going. The floats, the music, the lights, like nothing had changed. Only now, every person watching was motionless. Faces turned toward me, blank, expressionless. One by one, they began to wave. Slowly, the band played louder, a discordant shriek that made my ears ring. Then the floats began to move again. Only this time, the people on them weren't people. They were mannequins, pale, plastic, painted with frozen smiles, each one wearing a familiar face, a missing person's face. My sister's was the last. She was at the very end of the procession, sitting perfectly still, her eyes glassy, her hand raised in a permanent wave. When I woke up, it was morning. The streets were clean. No confetti, no floats, no sign of a parade at all. The police said I'd had a breakdown, that I'd wandered into the woods and been found near dawn. That Abby was gone, just like all the others. But they didn't see the photos on my phone. Dozens of them. Pictures I don't remember taking. Each one showing me, smiling on a float, next to her. And in the background, the crowd is cheering, faces blurred. Every single one of them waving back. That was 3 years ago. I moved away, changed my name, stopped celebrating Halloween altogether. But last week, I got a letter, no return address. Inside was a glossy flyer for the Ashford Hollow annual Halloween parade, and written across it in neat, looping handwriting, "You're next in line."